let's unhook the velvet rope and let in one of the top young beat writers in town from Vegas Hockey Now. Welcome in Owen Krepps. And Owen, I want to ask you one thing. I saw this on social media. I wanted to get your opinion on it. We saw a fan walking around T-Mobile. It was retweeted a bunch of times that said, and I quote, Leonard is not so good. That's not the word that was on there. We deserve better. What would you say to a fan like that? Is that silly, or do you feel like that this team cannot ride Robin Lehner into the postseason?
I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
Yeah.
I wrote about it this morning. Yeah,
I felt the same way.
It's disgusting. It's. I don't even know what to say. It's terrible. Like, that's not a fan. That's just a hater. I mean, I know you're going to have people that'll have those opinions, but to go out of your way and get that on a custom-made, it wasn't even like a jersey.
Yeah.
It's a jacket. It's just scummy. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what this guy's point is. Like, yes, he's trying to, go out and say that the Golden Knights goaltending situation is bad, which it isn't. But what is his goal here? Just to spread more hate, and it's just not. I don't know. It's not a good look for Golden Knights fans.
Oh, he's one of these guys.
Like that, yeah.
He's one of these guys that caused Robin Lehner to delete his Twitter account. I had no idea because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Owen. I mean, we all have our feelings about who should be in goal, or we have our feelings about the team, and so I don't know if normal people would go out of their way to custom make something to voice their opinion. I mean, why do something like that when you have this powerful tool called Twitter? I mean, say what you got to say, go to the games, and be done with it at that point. But I have to tell you, Owen, I mean, I call a spade, but when I saw that, I'm like, that to me is garbage. That's a garbage fan to me.
Yeah, and there was a Penguins fan that I saw the other day that kind of did somewhat of the same thing. This has been going on for a couple of years. He has a Tom Wilson custom jersey, and it says trash instead of Wilson on the back. And again, I just don't understand that. Like, yeah, you don't have to love the guy, but to go out of your way to go get a custom jersey, to spend money on something just to, kind of say your opinion and put down a player, not that Wilson can't take it. It's just, I don't know. It's disrespectful to me. It's pathetic. I just don't like it. And it's just pointless to me.
Yeah. And of course, Tom Wilson's a guy that probably, I mean, has earned that a little bit more. But when we're talking about Lehner, this is a guy that's going out there and he's not trying to not play well. I mean,
absolutely.
It is, I mean, he hasn't done the things that Tom Wilson has done to other players on the ice to deserve that sort of thing. And so when I see this, it tells me more about who you are rather than the player that you can't stand, who really is out there just trying to, bust his tail to get victories for this team.
Yeah, he's only been back for 3 games. And, this has been a rough season for him in terms of injuries. And, it's just disheartening. And I agree, Wilson is a completely different scenario. But the fact that you're doing it for a team or a player that is on supposedly the team that you root for,
right,
doesn't make sense to me.
And then, he would be the first guy to be upset if they didn't make the postseason, and, he'd be upset at something else. The team is 8-8 in their last 16 games, and part of that is their penalty kill. And in their last 30 days, their penalty kill is 71%. They've allowed 9 power play goals over the last 14. Is that really the major issue right now? Even though they don't have to kill off a lot of penalties, they've done a good job in that regard. But if they do get into the postseason, that might be their Achilles heel even more than what goaltending is.
Possibly. I would say the power play would be more of an Achilles heel right now because that, given the personnel that is finally starting to be on it, Pacioretty, finally back, Dodonov heating up, and then now Eichel. I would like to see that getting going more than the penalty kill. The penalty kill's been okay, roughly middle of the road in the NHL, like in terms of overall percentages.
Right, but
yeah,
the last month, 71%, you can't have that either.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot has to do with Riley Smith, who is arguably one of the best, and William Carrier, too, has been out. Penalty killers, Jan Mark's been out as well. But Smith, in particularly, with the shorthanded goals that he can put up, he has 2 this season. He's been out ever since mid-March, so that definitely hurt the Golden Knights. I don't see necessarily that being the biggest issue. But they are giving up goals against, teams that are struggling on the power play. You'll see, but a lot of areas for the Golden Knights to fix up before they get into the postseason, if they do.
I think turnovers is one of those. I think turnovers has led to some of the penalties taken that has then led to the penalty kill not being so good. The other night. The first period, in particular, the first half of the first period, not so good against Arizona. A lot of turnovers. They got better as the game went along. Now, some of that's, you've got new pairings back there with guys coming back, but I think they need to clean up the turnovers, especially in their own end.
Absolutely, and I'm seeing a lot of it from the veteran guys, and even going back to the penalty kill things, like those guys will make turnovers and then take a penalty, and then there's one of your penalty killers that's in the box, like an Alec Martinez or a Braden McNabb or a Pietrangelo or a Theodore. They've had some costly mistakes in these couple of games. The game against Vancouver the other night, Martinez, prime example there. The own goal that happened the other night as well with Martinez again. His is a little bit of a different case, being out of lineup for so long. And finally coming back, getting worked into the lineup slowly but surely. McNabb as well was out for a good stretch, but I wouldn't say it's the Golden Knights having unfamiliar defensive pairings. It's more of just getting back to the usual defensive pairings, because this defense is more or less healthy. Nick Hague is the only guy that's out right now, so it's a great sign for the Golden Knights. And we saw that kind of domino effect into having more players on the defense jump up offensively. Shea Theodore in particular, Dylan Coughlin when he was in the lineup, even Alex Pietrangelo scored a goal the other night. So I think there will be some growing pains with the turnovers that we keep seeing, but it'll get back to the way it usually was with the you have Martinez on one pairing and then Theodore and then Pietrangelo, which is a great 1-2-3 pairing punch, if you ask me.
How do you feel, Owen, about this Western Canada road swing coming up? The first game tomorrow against Vancouver, I feel pretty confident. Off of the loss to Vancouver, I think we'll see a spirited effort from the VG Cam. A little more concerned with Calgary and Edmonton. And do you think Lehner gets all 3 starts, or do we maybe see Thompson in one of those games?
Let me check. Do they go back-to-back at all? I think all the games are...
There's a day in between, yeah.
It depends on who wins and who loses. I mean, if you have a goalie that struggles in a game, I say at this point in the season you have to take him out and go with the next one, because you cannot afford to lose and you cannot afford to struggle. I think Lehner will get all 3 starts if he wins or has a decent game. But personally, I think if a goalie just shows a glimpse of struggling, you got to take him out and put Thompson in. And if Thompson struggles, you got to take him out and put Lehner back in. It's too late in the season, and you're in such of a desperation mode to make the playoffs that you can't afford to lose. I think, we're mostly focused on the Alberta games, but this game against the Canucks is going to be huge as well.
Yeah.
Given the fact that they're only 4 points behind the Golden Knights in the standings, and they're not out of it as well. Even the Jets last night, who are the only team that is playing tonight with the Canadiens, which is a weird scheduling thing, they're still in it as well. So not only are the Golden Knights chasing, they're being chased as well. They need to end the Canucks season tomorrow night, essentially, and put that to rest, and then go into Alberta and get as many points as possible as well. They're not playing the teams that they're battling for. They're not playing LA. They're not playing Dallas. They're not playing Nashville just yet. They played Dallas one more time. But these are obviously hugely important games for the Golden Knights.
How long would they ride Robin Lehner? They have one back-to-back left, and that's at the end of the month against Dallas and Chicago. And I'm assuming Lehner would get the first game there, and then they would give Thompson the second game against Chicago, maybe. But I mean, is there a scenario where Lehner plays? And again, if he plays well, we'll put that caveat on it. If he plays well, does Lehner get like 90% of the games going forward? Are they that confident in him?
I think so. I think they have to be. I think they really this season we have not seen what Lehner is truly capable of, because just as it seems as if he's getting on a roll, he either struggles or he gets hurt. And it's a really tough thing for a goalie to go through in year one of being like the true bona fide starter. So I think DeBoer's gonna play him as much as he possibly can, similar to early in the season where he kind of came back, where he came back from his off-season injury, and he just went with Lehner for 90%, 95% of the first couple of games, and then went to Brossoit. I don't know what's speaking of Brossoit, I have no idea what's going on with him. He's day-to-day, apparently, undisclosed injury, about as vague as it can get there. But I think Thompson is earned the spot as a backup.
Right.
And I think, again, I think it's you ride the hot goalie because you cannot afford to lose these games.
Yeah, you don't see a scenario where Brossoit comes back and regains control of number 2, do you?
Not this late in the season, and maybe next season as well. I mean, he signed past the season, but cap space, that's off-season stuff we'll get to. Training camp is when that'll probably be decided, or I could see the Golden Knights moving on from Brossoit this season, where it's kind of unfortunate for him as well because injuries have kind of doomed his season. Not doomed his season, but it's kind of made it challenging for him to be a stable backup goaltender.
Yeah, ironic that the game against the Jets, Steve, was probably the game that he was. Yeah. He hadn't seen the ice since, I don't think. But is it a positive though? The Knights having majority of road games. I think 6 of the last 9 are on the road. Is that a positive where you just kind of stay in your system? You don't try to do too much for the home crowd. I would think in many ways that's a positive moving forward.
Yeah, there was a span, December, January, if I remember correctly, where they were winning a lot of road games. And I got to go on this again, but the last road trip that they were on, last lengthy road trip they were on, they went 0-5 against all the East Coast teams and then the Jets. So they obviously can't have that happen again. The typical on the road type, dynamic with team bonding, playing simple, not letting the away crowd get to you, those kind of things will definitely be huge. And this is the roster the Golden Knights essentially have for the remainder of the season, unless Mark Stone or Will Carrier comes back. So they got to look around in the locker room and say, hey, is this a good enough team to get us into the Stanley Cup playoffs? I think it is, and go from there.
Oh, and have you been at practice? Have you seen Stone working out? If so, what's he look like?
Not recently, no.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. I heard he practiced with the team on Saturday, and I saw a couple of things on the internet. He could be back within a week, so I'll cross my fingers and hope he's back within a week.
Yeah, the number is 4.5 is what they're saying for salary cap and all that stuff. But yeah, the Donoff trade, while it's working out with the Donoff being great ever since the voided trade, but Mark Stone might have to sit on LTIR until the playoffs, and I think that's what it's going to be if they do make the playoffs.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, do you see a scenario in the offseason? I mean, the amount of money that the Donoff is making, I mean, he's still probably, regardless of where he ends up, he's still the guy that's probably going to get moved to give them some relief, wouldn't you think?
I disagree. I think with what happened and with what he has done since then, I think they're going to keep him. That's the perfect misfit story, is it not? Just being traded, but also not being traded, coming back. It's not there's no awkwardness in terms of playing on the ice and with his teammates. Kind of the upper management that it's kind of weird with. I think Dadonov stays.
At $5 million and no guarantees getting to 20 goals, that's what they would do?
I don't think that. I don't know what that's what they would do, but I personally think that they should keep him. And he's been a great player for them so far. He's been mostly healthy, which has, made him be in the lineup. We still have never not seen what this team is going to look like fully healthy.
Right.
So, right now, Dadonov is a first-line player, fully healthy. He might be a bottom six guy. So maybe then he gets traded. But just looking right now, and this is off-season speculation, but Riley Smith, to me, I don't know if they're going to have enough money to sign him again.
Yeah, I agree. It was either or for me, and that was going to be my next question. If you didn't go Dadonov, where would you go to free up some space? So it would be Riley Smith for you?
Yeah, or unless you want to, micromanage and trade a bunch of guys like Carrier and Patrick and Waugh, which really ruins your depth. And then we've seen with the Henderson guys this year, they have not been that impactful. They've kind of just been placeholders, which is fine. They're not, the highest prospects in the land. But if you get rid of a guy like even a Janmark, who's a UFA, he's not going to be able to come back likely just due to cap reasons. The depth is going to be tested next season for the Golden Knights. So can you afford to lose to Dadonov or Riley Smith? I don't know.
We're talking to Owen Krepps. We appreciate you being on. It was a great conversation. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
VegasHockeyNow.com.
All right.
And I'm at 85 on Twitter.
Okay, awesome. Owen, thank you so much, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Yep, thank you.
All right, there he goes, Owen Krepps. We'll take a short break, and the former Vegas Golden Knight broadcaster, current Seattle Kraken broadcaster, Nick Gizmani will be on with us.